We got company.
Broadsword calling Danny Boy.
You have my sympathies.
We do not follow maps to buried treasure, and X never, ever marks the spot.
I'm glad it's you.
Well, I understand double O's have a very short life expectancy, so your mistake will be short-lived.
Would you like some refreshments?
Oh, I'm fine. Thank
Enjoy the show.
Hi there, welcome to Sitting Through the Credits, a film review podcast covering new releases, cult classics, and everything in between. My name is Matt, and for this fourth episode I'll be covering the recent 2022 film Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery, written and directed by Rian Johnson.
Dear friends, my beautiful disruptor is my closest inner circle.
We could all use a moment of normalcy, and so you are cordially invited
For a long weekend on my private island!
The second story of the new franchise, following 2019's Knives Out, Glass Onion sees the return of the last of the gentleman sleuths, Benoit Blanc, played effortlessly once again by Daniel Craig. I was fortunate to catch this film during its brief theatrical run, and before I'd heard any spoilers, save for its cast and setting. Going in, I was completely unaware of the mystery's victim or victims, or if Blanc would have another character taking a similar assisting role to that of Ana de Armas in the first movie. I will therefore endeavour to retain the mystery of as many of Glass Onion's layers as possible. Returning briefly to the impact of the first film, for me Knives Out was a first-rate entry in the murder mystery genre, playing with familiar tropes and subverting expectations to inject the classic whodunit template with a taste of modernity. Its success with audiences was reflected at the box office, making around $313 million on a $40 million budget. The obvious question that presents itself now is, how does Glass Onion compare to Knives Out? In my view, it is definitely on par, both films making for a perfect double bill because of the clear contrast between the old money of the Thrombey's estate from the first film and the new money of the ultra-rich tech billionaire Miles Bron, one of the focal points of this second instalment. Although a sequel in the sense that it is another Benoit Blanc mystery, Glass Onion still works as a standalone tale, much like the stories of Arthur Conan Doyle or Agatha Christie. For a good portion of Knives Out, the audience is left in suspense with regard to the question of how good a detective Benoit Blanc truly is. Despite this time knowing about Benoit's method of detection, described as determining the terminus of gravity's rainbow, Glass Onion still allows Blanc to play the disarming fool whilst he unravels and follows the various threads of his investigation.
How many of these boxes did you create?
5, one for each of my friends.
No test boxes, no prototypes.
My puzzle guy barely got the 5 done in time, and he apprenticed with Ricky J.
And once the boxes are open and the puzzle's complete, is there any way to close them again? To reset them?
The film is not content to simply rest and repeat the successes of Knives Out, however, with Blanc shown to be capable of approaching problems in different ways, despite not quite fitting in amongst the extremely wealthy company he finds himself in. Although I often find myself embarking on a swift rewatch when it comes to detective films, with Glass Onion this is particularly encouraged by the non-linear nature of its story structure, an onion being an apt metaphor for the intricate layers that make up the film's puzzle. Glass Onion swaps out the autumnal New England setting of Knives Out, with its mahogany-panelled mansions and subtle luxury, for Riviera fashion and the bright white Mediterranean architecture of a Greek private retreat. Laying on some southern hokum, Daniel Craig shines once again as Benoit Blanc, this time bringing shades of Peter Ustinov's Poirot from Evil Under the Sun to the role. Once again, we're treated to plenty of great dialogue throughout the picture, and another classic whodunit denouement. But it has to be said that there is just no topping Blanc's donut hole monologue from the prior film. Craig's comedic sensibilities are in full force for this role, a character that couldn't be more divorced from his previous career-defining role as James Bond 007.
Any questions?
Wait, what are we with?
What do you mean? What do you want?
No, nothing. I just thought maybe there was a prize or something. An iPad or
Although he sadly doesn't say "I suspect foul play" this time around, the fun Daniel is having on set is clear to see, with Benoit's deep intelligence masked by a humorous veneer often putting the film's list of suspects off their guard. The story is focused upon a group of 6 characters who met in their youth and became friends at a bar named the Glass Onion. The film wastes no time in communicating its meta tone to the audience, the group having assembled to solve the fictional murder of their host before the game rapidly becomes all too real.
You've been charged with a serious task. Because tonight, in this very room, a murder will be committed. My murder.
Nicknamed the Disruptors, the ensemble cast is composed of Dave Bautista, who plays Twitch streamer and men's rights activist Duke Cody, Kate Hudson starring as the fashionista Birdie J, Janelle Monáe plays Cassandra Brand, shortened to Andy, a character wronged in the past by the group, who is very much the catalyst of the unfolding story. Catherine Hahn plays the Governor of Connecticut and aspiring Senator Claire DeBella. Leslie Odom Jr. plays the scientist Lionel Toussaint. And finally, Miles Bron, the tech billionaire who invites the Disruptors to stay on his own private island, is played by Edward Norton.
I've got the pre-definite detective in the world at my murder mystery party. That is so legit.
Also staying on the island are Birdie's long-suffering personal assistant Peg, played by Jessica Hennick, and Duke's assistant and girlfriend Whiskey, played by Madeline Klein. Regular Rian Johnson movie collaborator Noah Segan also makes a return to the franchise, having played Trooper Wagner in Knives Out, this time playing Daryl. Glass Onion is punctuated by a series of inventive cameos which manage to inject some extra humour into the story without intruding too heavily upon the plot. Though it would be inappropriate for me to spoil the surprises of these moments, I must mention the already reported final screen appearances of the recently departed Angela Lansbury and Stephen Sondheim. Their cameos by video call are charming but sadly brief, the subsequent tribute to their work in the credits being a classy touch from Rian Johnson, as their presence in his film clearly meant a lot to him. Many celebrities get shout-outs in the film, some putting their names to products including kombucha and hot sauce. Another notable cameo comes in the form of Miles's clock, the hourly dong, which, though not explicitly stated in the film, is in fact voiced by Joseph Gordon-Levitt. It's also fun to note that a very famous sportswoman can be spotted reading a copy of Gravity's Rainbow, the book by Thomas Pynchon, which Benoit claimed that nobody has read in the previous film. A further cameo from an actor who has to be one of the best housemates imaginable alludes to Benoit being a queer-coded character in some tantalising scenes which lend us a brief glimpse into the detective's home life. Last, but by no means least, it's great to see Jackie Hoffman on fine comedic form as Duke's mother, an especially enjoyable cameo because of Jackie's recent performances as Uma in Only Murders in the Building.
That first one's a Fibonacci sequence.
Glass Onion is highly satirical in nature, lampooning the modern phenomenon of social media influencers and the corrupting influence of wealth on those who become wealthy and the individuals within and around their sphere of influence, as well as their vacuous need to flaunt their success through material possessions. For all of its glitz and glamour, Miles Bron's island is a lair championing form over function, stocked full of expensive gloat, much of which is misunderstood and unappreciated by its owner. A Banksy has been impractically installed as a submersible dock, with no recognition that at high tide it cannot be raised high enough to be used. Baby Blue, Miles' roof-installed Porsche 918, placed there because there are no roads on the island, is a car he claims is one of a kind. However, car fans will know that, though it is a rare hypercar for sure, hundreds of them still went into production. Similarly, Miles' need to point out that he's playing Paul McCartney's guitar, only to casually toss it aside, is totally undercut by the fact that it's not a left-handed guitar. Clearly, all the wealth in the world is no substitute for a few minutes of research, and perhaps his own art and antiques dealers are already scamming him. To top this though, the inspiration for the song he is playing, Blackbird by the Beatles, was drawn from the US civil rights struggles of the 1960s, so the song is completely tone-deaf given Miles' past treatment of Andy, a black woman. The one piece of artwork with a truly emotional connection to his character, which I won't reveal as I myself was unaware of its presence in the film, is also itself treated as little more than a mere bauble to show off to his guests. As in Knives Out, Nathan Johnson's score is a particular highlight of the movie. With the surprising choice to avoid reusing themes from the previous film, Glass Onion's main theme builds to a grand orchestral piece, whilst the intense gravitas of some of the other tracks emphasise the duplicity of the film's characters and the sinister nature of their motivations. It is a score with a vintage flavour, the use of the Tippett string quartet and harpsichord instantly evoking the atmosphere of classic detective fiction. A soundtrack that would fit perfectly in a period murder mystery setting, as well as a 21st century one.
A whole new tune. Freaking Miles, man. Genius.
The film was shot in Spetsis and Porto Heli in Greece, and in Belgrade in Serbia between June and September 2021. Miles Bron's villa is in reality Villa 20 at the Amanzoe Resort near Porto Heli on the Greek Peloponnese Peninsula, a villa designed by Ed Tuttle and Marius Angelopoulos. It's ironic that despite being a film that parodies the lives of the rich, upon watching this film you can guarantee that some future patrons will be staying in this villa because of its connection with the movie, and right now that'll cost them around €25,000 per night. With its filming influenced by the COVID-19 pandemic, as has been the case with many recent films, rather than avoiding the issue, Glass Onion consciously makes the pandemic a part of the story. There are obvious ramifications for a politician and US Senate candidate swanning off on holiday to Greece and becoming embroiled in a murderous plot at the height of the pandemic in 2020, and even the masks initially worn by the characters, or in some cases not worn, reveal a lot about their nature. Birdie's, for example, is an utterly useless mesh design that's sole function is as a fashion accessory, whereas her assistant Peg wears a standard surgical style mask. The one advantage of filming during COVID is that it led to a closely knit cast, the actors' families staying with them at the resort during the shoot. 2022 has been a strong year for murder mystery films, with Death on the Nile, See How They Run, Where the Crawdads Sing, Enola Holmes 2 and Confess Fletch all being strong entries that I would highly recommend. I would rate Glass Onion as a strong 9 out of 10, it definitely being in the upper echelons of the detective films I've just mentioned.
Miles is doing a murder mystery. Let's invite Benoit freaking Blanc.
Glass Onion is a film that ticks so many of my boxes, with its phenomenally talented cast and breathtaking scenery lending such character and originality to a film of one of my favourite genres. Much as it was the case with Knives Out, you can tell that there is a sense of glee both in front and behind the camera, as the on-screen puzzle is delightfully unfolded in front of us, often misdirecting our theories and subverting our expectations. Without a doubt, I will be watching Glass Onion again as soon as it is released on Netflix in December, but should you have the opportunity, this is a film that really deserves a viewing on the big screen.
Ma, where's my spear gun? I got it packed. Babe, get packed.
What's that?
I don't know.
With 2 pitch-perfect Benoit Blanc mysteries now delivered to audiences, I'm once again eagerly awaiting the next entry in Rian Johnson's series, with every faith that the third film will be just as polished, intelligent and as fun as the films we have received already. Hopefully you enjoyed this 4th episode of Sitting Through the Credits. I'm looking forward to bringing more film reviews to you soon. Thanks for listening.
I'm gonna hide this tape when I'm finished.
Replicants are like any other machine. They're either a benefit or a hazard.
Erasing it. It's life.
What's the boogeyman?
Any further resistance will be dealt with in the same way.
As a matter of fact, it was.
End of story.